Okay, 2200 hours, and yet again, I'm the only one here. I'm going to kick off anyway, and this will go on Internet Archive next month. So I hope somebody joins in soon, and if not, you can still profit from what you learn. First, a couple of things before the main subject, the Rape Crisis Network and why it should be shut down. The Streamlabs, yeah, I haven't had time to look at Streamlabs, so I don't think there's any point using it. I've got some. Hello, whoever you are. Is that Sean? Well, whoever it is, hello. Still can't use Streamlabs, but I won't bother with that. Oh, hello. Yes, yeah, I remember you. Hello. Hopefully some of your friends will come along. Right, couple of things. Michael Jackson, yeah. I've got a can of drink here. I'm getting into this 0 calorie stuff. I can't tell the difference between Coke and Pepsi, but the 0, this is vanilla flavor. So anyway, if you have, or even if you haven't watched that Leaving Neverland rubbish, there's a lot of people, not all of them Jackson fans, have made responses, and you know, if like me at the time you thought this guy was lucky to escape conviction in 2005, take a good look at the evidence. The Michael Jackson paedophile is really a creation of the media, and of course the people who falsely accused him. You know, I mean, it's very easy to you hear the basics of the story, that this guy was having young kids hanging out in his bedroom. But there's a lot more to it than that. I mean, the cameras, CCTV cameras all over the place, and the parents and everything. So, I mean, the whole campaign against Michael Jackson is complete garbage. A couple of cases here. First of all, there's a bloke who was accused of rape, a bloke named Nid, who he was a pharmaceutical consultant. He said by the Daily Mail to be 10 out of 10 drunk. He pleaded not guilty to attempted rape. I'm sure it said it was rape as well. But yeah, he had 3 trials, but this woman had 12 glasses of 12 drinks, went home with him because she thought she was going somewhere else. They ended up in bed together, and we don't know much about how drunk he may have been. He's obviously been drinking, but it was, how stupid can these women are pathetic. They really are. And another one, an actual a bloke who was rightly convicted of rape, a taxi driver. This is somewhat more disturbing. This is here we are. A woman. Oh yeah, she gets in a taxi, and night first, she was not drunk or incapable. So let her go. She gets in another taxi, and she ended up getting raped. The guy got 10 years. Yeah, you know, this isn't victim blaming, but you know, I'd rather see victims blamed and fewer women raped than to carry on the way they it's pathetic, really. So that's those things there. Right, the Rape Crisis Network. Now, this is you've undoubtedly heard of Rape Crisis. They don't all bear the Rape Crisis centres. They're all over the place now. They don't all have the name Rape Crisis. There's Women Against Rape, and there's Women's Centre this and whatever. Rape crisis centres are a product of second wave feminism. I don't want to go too far afield here, but first wave of feminism was the suffragettes and suffragists. It goes back beyond that, you know. I mean, it started in America as well. In America, the so-called women's movement, the suffragette movement, was sort of piggybacked on the anti-slavery movement, which has a long history, and it goes back before that. But second wave feminism, or women's liberation, as it's misnamed, began in the 1960s. The concept of date rape arose then. Before then, rape was considered to be a gross sexual invasion by a stranger. But then you had date rape. The term, I believe, first appeared in print in 1975 in Brown Miller's hysterical book Against Our Will, but it's obviously been around before mentioned in print and been. You see, I shouldn't be tired. I've had plenty of kip during the day in preparation for this. The first Rape Crisis Centre opened in Sydney, Australia, 1971. There's one opened in Washington, DC, 1972, and the first one in the UK, predictably in London, it was in early 1976. The idea is that women, if a woman is raped, if a girl is raped, if a man is raped, if rape should be dealt with by the police. If you've been raped, you should dial 999. If you're too smashed out of your mind, you think you may have been, then you should go to hospital or whatever. But it should be dealt with by the police. But they come up with these rape crisis centres where women could phone them up and have appointments and decide if they want to report. You know, if. And then there's counselling and so-called counselling and so-called therapy that goes along with it afterwards. This is really a bit. This bit about counselling and therapy is silly, because one of the things that was, on the one hand, we're told that reliving the experience is traumatizing for the victim or the survivor. So, court, you cross-examine about it, we even testifying to it. Perhaps there shouldn't be a trial. Perhaps the guy should just be judged guilty. And on the other hand, you've got counselling and therapy. Well, counselling is, therapy. You have therapy for all sorts of things, and counselling. People who suffered serious injuries, can have therapy. I mean, there's something called rehabilitation. If a guy's lost an arm or a leg or something, you've got to learn to adjust to life with this new disability. So you have peer rehabilitation, you have therapy, which will be both physical therapy and maybe some talking and that, and counselling, advise you what to do. But what is that for rape? I mean, what are you going to do? It's so anyway, these centres they've set up, and now they're all over the place. I've got a video clip here somewhere of if this will play. This is about the Oxford Rape Crisis Centre. This was uploaded to YouTube on July 27, 2013. and it had less than 1,000 views in 4.5 years. Let's play this, see if it will play. Yes.
Hi Natalie, could you tell me a little bit more about yourself and Oxford Sexual Abuse and Rape Crisis Centre?
Yeah, hi. So I'm the service manager of Oxford Sexual Abuse and Rape Crisis Centre, or OSOC for short. We're a local charity that provides support services for women and girls who've experienced sexual violence, any form of sexual violence at any time in their lives. We run a telephone helpline and an email support service, and we also run weekly support groups for women over the age of 18. We've been running in Oxford for about 30 years, just over 30 years, providing those services.
I've seen you speak before.
That'll do for a moment. As you say, they don't all have the name of rape crisis. We've been running these services for over 30 years. She says that like they run a telephone and email service. Again, it is for it should, you know, the only telephone number you should dial if you've been raped is 999. If they've been raped any time in their lives, she says. What does that mean? What it means in practice is you have women phoning these centres, going along there, emailing them, claiming they were raped last month, last year, last decade. Some of these women are lying. They do. You'll find admissions here and there of hoaxes. But you also have women who you have women who when I say hoaxes, I mean women who make these calls just to wind up the people. I mean, you get this for the emergency service as well. If you run through your search engine the phrase 999 hoax or something, you find people make all sorts of false reports. You get frivolous ones as well. You have the bloke who phones $9 999 because he can't find the local Kentucky Fried Chicken. But you also have false genuine hoaxes. People report rapes that didn't happen. But with you have women who lie. Sometimes they lie systematically to seek attention or to cause trouble, perhaps for a named individual. But I think most often you have women who reinterpret their consensual but sordid sexual encounters as rape. I'll be talking about that in a bit. And the way these centres encourage these women to do this. Let's play a little bit more of this video.
About how in Oxford women are quite lucky to have this service, and this concerned me a little bit that women in other areas don't get the support. How do we change this?
Well, yeah, you're right. I think we're unusual in Oxford to have a rape crisis centre here in the city. Not every city does have one, and in many cases it's a postcode lottery as to whether a woman is able to access a rape crisis centre, depending only on where she lives. There's a huge lack of resources available to rape crisis centres, and funding pledged by...
There we go again. So a huge lack of resources. Funding. We need more funding. These rape crisis centres are charities. I don't all of them. Certainly the most of them appear to be. If you look on their websites, now they allow charities, but they're also funded by by national government or by local government. It depends. I mean, they're all over the world, and they also have charitable status, which means people can donate money to them and get with tax deductible. It's really also a business. This woman is smiling very much, no doubt. I don't know if she's she's the manager, so she's probably paid. Manager, so she's probably paid. But they do have so-called volunteers.
The government, by other local authorities, to commit to making sure these services are fully funded, which means that the appropriate services are not always available.
So they should be, they should commit to being fully funded. Now, I'm not suggesting that this is all about money any more than I'm suggesting that it's all about politics. What I'm suggesting here is that these centres are. Well, do they help women? Well, they may help a few women. They may help a few, but they do far more harm than good. A lot of them are staffed by dedicated feminists. I saw a video a while back. It's on the timeline of one in Canada, Toronto, which is run by feminists. The first rape crisis centre set up in the UK was set up by feminists, and they resort to the usual lies and brainwashings and fabricated statistics. I mean, they just pluck statistics out of thin air. Some of them have even promoted. Some of the women involved with these have promoted satanic abuse fantasies. A while ago, I contacted a guy through Facebook from a guy in Dublin. I read about him somewhere or saw something. He said he was attending a family funeral and he'd get back to me. He never did, but I've heard bad things about the Dublin Rape Crisis Centre. My Irish correspondent tells me a lot of Irish who are bonkers about that they've been, indoctrinated with this rubbish. Now, I just not thinking. It's important to remember that rape crisis centres. This is about advocacy. I've read enough of that video. It's about advocacy, and advocacy is about taking a side. Now, that's okay, but within limits. In 1984, a bloke named Steve Carney took a co-worker for a drive with a mutual friend. They parked in a secluded spot. Alcohol was consumed. The girl was upset. No, not with a mutual friend. Took a co-worker, a mutual friend. Yes, with a mutual friend. Sorry. She had a boyfriend. Carney said that they ended up kissing, but there was no sex. Never mind rape. And as with alcohol, she had a fuzzy memory of what happened. In January 1985. Carney found himself on a list of names that was circulated in the area. This was in California. How did you guess? The girl was identified as Karen Winkler, and she had accused him of rape. And this list was published by Santa Cruz Women Against Rape. He sued her and the centre. She settled with him. She didn't testify but apologised. Carney was awarded $7,500 for pain and suffering, plus $25,000 punitive damages. That judgment was reversed on a technicality. But the important thing here is that this is, this is a rape crisis centre acting as judge, jury, and executioner. And as usual, of course, the man is guilty without a trial. We see this all the time. I actually saw this in person. I was watching I don't watch TV anymore. I was watching the BBC. Was it 2015? It's on the timeline anyway. Lisa Longstaff of Women Against Rape was on there with what's that woman's name? I forget now, but I'll find it. Leaves alone stuff. It's that well-known, one of the better quality. Oh yes, it was. Oh dear, who was it? Let's see, who's it? Her name is. Victoria Derbyshire. I'm losing it, man. I'm losing it. Victoria. She's on the Victoria Derbyshire program. This is the case. I've actually spoken to this guy, Alexander Economou. He hooked up with this attractive young woman with breasts to die for, Eleanor De Freitas, and she falsely accused her of drugging and raping her. She did the real damsel act, he was actually the second man she'd falsely accused of rape. He, being a man with deep pockets and a sense of family honour, he initiated a private prosecution against her, and she ended up committing suicide 3 days before the trial was due to start. And Lisa Longstaff was on the Victoria Derbyshire programme. She was discussing this, didn't mention him by name, but she said that this woman was sued by her rapist and she committed suicide. She used the phrase "her rapist" twice. So they don't give a damn. On the timeline at it's December 2014, I think. December 2nd, 2014. There's they held a meeting at the Palace of Westminster. And the theme was jail rapists, not rape victims. One of the rape victims they supported was Rhiannon Brooker, who's one of the most outrageous false rape accusers ever. And they actually attended her trial. They reckoned she was innocent. Well, if you read the judgment, you'll find Brooker on the timeline. She went to extraordinary lengths to fit up her mark, and if the police hadn't done further investigation to strengthen their case against him, they wouldn't have realised that poor girl would end up serving a life sentence. Absolutely outrageous case, and yet they supported her, and they continue to support her. And they believe that women shouldn't be jailed for false rape allegations. But very occasionally, a woman should be prosecuted for wasting police time, but a woman should never be prosecuted for perverting the course of justice, because this will discourage genuine victims from coming forward. It's just complete. It's just absolutely outrageous that they come out with this flim flam. If I go back to the first UK women's rape crisis centre, there was an article published in The Guardian, May 28, 1976. I didn't put the whole article on the timeline. It was an amusing quote from it here. "We don't confine our work within the strict legal definition of rape." Okay, fair enough. Indecent assault says, "If a woman imagines she's been raped or wants to make a false allegation, she probably needs help too. If she imagines she's been raped, she probably needs to see a psychiatrist or to stop taking whatever drug she's been taking. And she wants to make a false allegation, well, she should keep wanting. But if she does make a false allegation, she should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law." It's absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. So you see the way they operate. There's another one. What's this one here? Oh, I've done that one. That's Carney. Yeah. Boucher. This is Boucher, 19 1988. This is yeah, this is a Supreme Court of Canada judgment. In Canada, there are no jury trials in rape cases. And I had a so-called rape crisis expert here. He noted in some instances the complaint might have false allegation by previously accused another person without justification. Oh yeah, what? With respect to Court of Appeal misread what Carol Belcher said, while acknowledging that there may be cases whereby the person accused, the person charged with the offence is falsely accused, the witness never stated his false allegation intended to humiliate the accused. During cross-examination, Carol Belcher answered, the question was, so it's quite conceivable there are cases whereby the real victim is the person accused by the alleged victim. Yes, I could say yes to that. Therefore, you've been exposed to cases where an alleged victim wanted to humiliate a person. Well, I don't know what the intention was to humiliate the person, but the proportion that we have had is a very small proportion of the actual rapes. There's been a small percentage, not only here but in other centres. Emphasis added. You know, they minimise false allegations while encouraging them. That was Belcher. An interesting one here from New Zealand. This is 1995. Yeah, a guy named Nick Hamilton was falsely accused of rape. This is a well-known case in New Zealand. Nick Hills of Hamilton. Nick Wills of Hamilton, New Zealand. And the rape crisis sentence. The version believed by rape crisis spokesman Tony Allwood, who said how easy it is for traumatized women to make a mistake, despite the desperation of victims to be believed. When he was very harshly punished by the courts, it was outrageous to suggest that what happened to Nick was anyway comparable to the effects of rape. Well, yeah, this is something we hear a lot about this, but if you had to choose between being buggered involuntarily, that's the only way anybody would ever bugger me. But if you had to choose between being buggered involuntarily or spending 5, 10, 20 years in jail, which would you choose? Yeah, I mean it's ludicrous. They come up with these rubbish. Yeah, they really do. They don't know what they're talking about a lot of the time. 2006, there was a press release on the Peter Ellis website. Rape crisis needs to acknowledge false allegations. It's referring to Louise Nicholas, who was, you ever know Louise Nicholas? She was a police groupie who made historical allegations against police officers, and she's regarded as some sort of national treasure in New Zealand, but she's a definite false accuser. She's even made one false allegation, which she acknowledged, although she said she couldn't remember making it. They just absolutely. Here we are. Yeah, that was that. And here we got one from Dublin. This is yeah. This is I've done. You might like to go back to the Internet Archive or on my YouTube account. You'll find the 3Ds of false rape allegations: drugs, drink, drugs, and delay. In 2008, a police officer, a senior Irish police officer, said that he accused some women of wasting time and scarce hospital resources. Superintendent Mick McGarry said that the women would report rapes, consume large amounts of alcohol. They report rapes and the police would investigate. And this guy was this woman was all over the guy who was meant to have raped her. And he was saying that basically drunks, that's the title of the article, drunks, rape claims by drunks waste resources, says Garda chief. And the rape crisis centre described his comments as extremely unhelpful. The fact that a woman was drunk on friendly terms with an alleged attacker doesn't mean a sexual assault was not occurred. No, of course not. And she wakes up in his bed the next morning and can't remember how she got there. That's his fault as well. Women have no agency, only when they do good things. They have no agency for their bad acts or for their stupidity. Now, got to something a lot more serious about how rape crisis centres are actually encouraging women to make false allegations. I found this this is another video here, on the video of the Cleveland Rape Crisis Centre, Cleveland, Ohio. I contacted them and I got in connection with it. I had a polite reply saying they couldn't disclose anything. I searched both the regular internet and some databases, subscription databases, to which I have access, and I could find nothing on it. But you listen to this. This is really frightening, the way they advise this young woman.
When I was 3 or 4 years old, I was molested and raped by my best friend at the time's father, who lived across the street from us. And I completely forgot about what had happened until I was almost 16 years old. I remembered rather suddenly. And then when I was 18, my best friend brought me down here for treatment because we didn't know what else to do. I didn't want my family to know. I didn't want anyone to know. At first, I was so scared of telling anyone. And it was just horrifying to realize that everything I thought I knew about myself wasn't really correct. For survivors who are watching this, who haven't come in yet, who for some reason you're scared, or you don't think someone will believe you, or you don't think you have the money, the treatment here is free and it can really change your life. And I understand why you'd be scared. I was terrified. I almost kept going on the bus instead of getting off on the bus stop to come here. And everyone was really nice. They were really friendly. They didn't push me to tell them anything. I remember how scared I was. And I remember that moment of feeling like, oh my God, there's someone who actually will understand, because it's really hard as a survivor. You know, you can talk to your friends and family and they really try to be there for you, but there's nothing like someone who knows what you're going through. And I want other people to know that no matter how alone they feel, there are other survivors who are here and we can all support each other.
That was a young woman called Carson. I'm going to do a separate video on child sexual abuse. What can I say? There's no doubt that she believes she was raped when she was 3 or 4 years old. But people don't just remember things like that from decades ago. It's childhood amnesia, it's confabulation. If you know a 3-year-old or 4-year-old who is sexually violated, will almost. I mean, there is almost no way that this can be done by a stranger or relative stranger without the parents being informed. When a child is raped, raped, there are basically 2 ways it can happen. That it's either kidnapped off the street and then murdered. We saw that recently with the shocking case of Aaron Campbell and Alicia McPhail. He took this young girl from her bed. He actually sweet talked her into going with him. Said, I think perhaps she knew him because he was buying drugs from her father. He said he was taken to her father, and I won't repeat what he did here, but he's been sentenced now. He's going to hopefully be on bar for the rest of his life. even though he's only 16. And the other is if it's, I mean, if you have like the wicked stepfather, or if you have, it could be sexually abused at home. But I mean, in modern Western society, a child who's sexually violated, a child of that age who's sexually violated, it's going to come to the attention of the medical authorities, or she's going to blab or something, you know. So I do not accept that this young woman was raped. I think she probably watched a television program or something and had an imaginary flashback. What's it called? It's triggered. Something triggered, and she thought she was raped when she was 3 or 4. We all have these. You know, for when you're young, when people are that young, that their memories are very, very faint, and I think that is undoubtedly what happened there. She wasn't raped at all, and for these airheads to promote, to encourage her delusions. I will say delusions, her false. It's still explained to her that these are false memories. It's absolutely outrageous. So I mean that is they're doing this all the time, encouraging women to make false allegations. So say from what I could see, that girl didn't accuse anyone of her neighbour of rape. She didn't go to the police, but she could have done. Back in, I think it was 2017, Rape Crisis Scotland introduced they produced a video. It was a series of videos explaining to why women don't report rape at once. And it's called "I Just Froze," and you'll find these videos on YouTube, and they're quite pathetic. They're trying to indoctrinate people, including police officers, into believing that the majority of women don't report rape. The majority of victims don't report rape because they just freeze. And this propaganda is even I've even seen it in soap operas. There was a scene in I don't watch them now, but you'll find it on YouTube, in the EastEnders soap opera, in which this woman is raped upstairs in a public house, just like that, where anybody can walk in, and she doesn't report. And the scene in which she discloses to another woman how she was raped, it's just absolute sheer propaganda. I've included that in my video, Bill Cosby, A Voice of Reason. You'll see there how these shameless liars are promoting this. I just froze. I thought I'd resist, but I just froze. No. In that connection, they have persuaded Rape Crisis and the sexual grievance industry generally have persuaded the authorities to do something which is really very dangerous. Women are now able to have sex. They may have been raped, but they have it's a sexual encounter. They go to a rape crisis centre, and they're sent to a sexual referral centre like the Havens, and they have a rape kit administered. And this can be preserved for up to 12 months while the woman decides if she wants to report. In other words, she continually rewrites her experience in her mind to this sordid but consensual experience. She continually rewrites it, or maybe willfully, till she gets her story letter perfect, and then she reports. Now, normally, They say rape is he said, she said. In reality, she said, he said. No, rape is she said plus physical evidence, he said. That is rape. Now, in this case, you've got she said plus physical evidence. So then what have you got on the other side? The guy might deny it, or he might be foolish and say and deny having a sexual encounter so long ago, and then he's shown the rape kit. And what does he do then? This is a case back in 2001. A police officer named Peter Solly was charged with nine counts of rape on the same complainant. He was involved with the Stephen Lawrence case. If you the Stephen Lawrence case was really outrageous, the way this has been exploited. It was a kid who was murdered in April 1993, and because he was black, we had this whole hysteria. You had the McPherson report, which is a tissue of nonsense. This bloke Solly had a relationship with, he was a married police officer, and he was shagging this black woman, and she accused him of rape. And he denied it until he was confronted with the DNA. He was cleared because she claimed she'd had a brief consensual relationship with him after he'd raped her 3 times, as any rape victim would. He rapes her 3 times. She has a consensual relationship, and then he rapes her another 6 times. Fortunately, the jury didn't swallow that. But, he lied about having any contact with her. Now, what would have happened to him? What could have happened to him? I've cited 2 cases here before. I will cite one of them again because this shows what can happen if reporting is delayed. This wasn't a delayed. What happened was, you can imagine what would happen here if this woman had delayed reporting. In 2003, a bloke named Graham Dawes, met a young woman at a club in Beverley on Humberside. I went back to his home, I think it's his mother's house, and they had sex. And then afterwards, she wanted to phone for a cab. And basically, there's a phone down the street, go ahead. And, he was you can call him a cad, a rotter, a bounder, whatever you like, but not a rapist. Anyway, she claimed she went to the police. She ended up going to the police and said he'd walked her home. He'd taken her to an alleyway, forced her to have oral sex. She'd vomited and managed to run off. So the police went to the alleyway and they found no vomit. They arrested Mr. Dawes. He told them what happened. He said they'd gone upstairs to the mother's bedroom, and they brought in the guys in the hazmat suits, and they did a spectacular job. And they found a fibre from one of her socks. She'd been wearing boots with socks. And when confronted with this, she admitted she'd had consensual sex with this guy, and she ended up getting a jail sentence. Now, imagine if she'd been allowed to delay for a year. If she'd been encouraged to delay for a year or 6 months. Yeah. So there's no vomit in the alleyway, and would they have found that? Would they have found that fibre? Would there even be any question of her? She might have said she wasn't wearing socks. Might have disposed of the socks by then. So it's very dangerous, this sort of thing, for innocent men. The other case I mentioned was Andrew Bond, but it's a very good one about delayed reporting. Have a look at the timeline. If on the off chance you don't know the timeline, you haven't seen the timeline. Here it is. This is the URL for the timeline. Have a look at the case from Palm Beach, Florida, with a police officer who stops this woman who she accuses of indecent assault. Now, then ask yourself, what would have happened if she delayed reporting? So that, I mean, this is very, very dangerous. This, and this is what rape crisis centres are doing. They're encouraging women a lot of women who report rape are not right in the head, because, as I say, rape is women who report to rape crisis centres. Most victims fight back. You know, even a small woman against a big man, she'll fight back, or she'll scream, she'll do something. You know, if you want to see what a rape victim looks like, check out the case on from 1940. Let me find practical rape investigation. Practical aspects of rape investigation. But yeah, but here it is. This is the entry for May the 1st, 1987. This is you see here. It has photographs of. It's a photograph of a young woman who was raped. It was in 1940 at Dover, and below her photograph is the photograph of the bloke who raped her. And look at his face. She scratched him. This is, you know, that's what a rape victim looks like. And what they're doing is they're encouraging women to falsely accuse men of rape. They're encouraging women who aren't right in the head, or maybe have had too much alcohol to bring false allegations. And they're not just doing this to women. There's this constant campaign about the absurd statistics we hear time and time again, and they're also working on the police to encourage the police to brainwash the police and the judiciary, and to some extent succeeding. Certainly in Canada, there's at least one judge who made absolutely outrageous ruling in a rape case. In Canada, I say there were no jury trials for rape. This is called sexual assault in Canada rather than rape. There were no jury trials. So if you have a bad judge, especially one who's been indoctrinated with feminist propaganda, you're guilty. You're accused, you're guilty. There's no statutes of limitations. They were removed in, I think, 1981. And I think what they're trying to get that here, they're trying to abolish jury trials for rape cases. And the whole sexual grievance industry is based on the premise that women very, very rarely falsely report, that most rapes go unreported, and that juries are incapable of sorting. Juries are susceptible to so-called rape, what they call rape myths. In fact, these are not rape myths; these are rape truths. So I mean, in my humble opinion, the Rape Crisis Network should be shut down. I mean, worldwide it should be. If it isn't possible to shut it down, then what should happen is that all rape crisis centres, all rape crisis organisations should be denied charitable status, and they should not receive a cent, a penny, a pfennig of state funding, be it national government or local government. The people who, first and foremost, the people who should deal with rape, allegations of rape, are the police, or the appropriate legal authorities, and of course the appropriate hospital authorities. So for rape victims should dial 999 or 911 in the US or 111 in New Zealand or whatever. These organisations, they have absolutely no respect for truth. They're plugging this propaganda, and that they should be shut down. Anyway, there's a lot to take away from that. If you look on the false rape timeline, you'll find quite a bit more. You'll find references there. It's always the same. Women never lie, and when they are caught out, they have mental health issues, and they're not to take responsibility for their actions. They're never culpable. And this is there are better ways to administer justice. There are better ways to combat rape and to deal with the allegations of rape, true and false, than this madness. Anyway, that's about all I have to say. I'll be putting this on. I'll be put this when I edited the superfluous stuff at the beginning. I'll be putting this video on my YouTube account and next month on the Internet Archive. Anyone wants to send me any questions, feel free. Shame it's such a small turnout, but the other thing I will say, I've definitely been shadow banned on both YouTube and Twitter. It's outrageous. I have 242 followers on YouTube, so for only 2 of them to turn up is well, you know. And I sent out a reminder for this hangout yesterday. We got 36 interactions on Twitter, and one today, 26. It was 11 hours ago, and I have I've got, I think, 45 followers on Twitter. So it's absolutely outrageous what's happening here. Anyone, it's even worse for people who are doing overtly political stuff, as I do occasionally. So anyway, please share this video when it goes live. Anyone wants to ask me any questions? You, Mr. Showalter, don't like me. Showalter don't like me here. You or anyone else? And I'll be adding to full soap time. I've got either probably tomorrow or Friday. I'll be adding some more entries to the full soap timeline. The latest one I've got is January 28th, and I'm still adding older stuff, not just full soap allegations, but magazine articles and things. Some quite good stuff added lately. So anyway, thanks for coming, and hopefully I'll be holding another hangout in 2 weeks or so.